Hey, welcome back to Sports Around the 313 with Triple G. Listen, we got a lot to cover today, so let's get right to it. Let's talk first of all about the Pistons. The Detroit Pistons just went through the NBA draft, which went very well for them. But they also had a lot of moves over the last 10 days, 7 to 10 days. They made some personnel moves. Stan Van Gundy, who's the president of the Pistons as well as the coach, I think made some pretty good moves. Let's talk about them. First of all, they traded for Avery Bradley from the Boston Celtics. They gave up Marcus Morris. The Celtics had to dump salary because they signed a couple of big free agents. So we were very fortunate to pick up this fella, Avery Bradley. He's a combo guard. He's one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. He's been in the NBA about, I think, 5 or 6 years. This guy's good, and he's only young. I think he's like 26, maybe 27 years old, so he's going to fit in with that young core of the Detroit Pistons. So this is a good find. This was a good trade for Van Gundy and the Pistons, and I know all the Pistons are excited to have him. There was only one downfall to this whole trade. One guy they had to give up was Marcus Morris, power forward. I'm going to miss the guy. He came in with a lot of energy, kind of gave the Pistons kind of a rough side like the bad boys used to do. I really liked him. I think they're going to miss him, and Stan Van Gundy even said they're going to miss him, but they had to make the move and pull the trigger on this trade. Let's talk about a couple people. Anthony Tolliver. You may or may not remember him. If you follow the Pistons very closely, he was a power forward that we had for a couple of years. He was signed by another team, I think Sacramento Kings. We just got him back. This guy's good. He's 6'10", he's got attitude. He can shoot the three for a big power forward. So we just got him back on a one-year contract. Now, we lost a couple people. I mentioned Marcus Morris going to Boston, but also Contavious Caldwell-Pope, KCP. He wanted a max contract. You know, he wanted like $120 million for 4 or 5 years, kind of like Andre Drummond. And you remember Andre Drummond got that last year, and he hasn't played up to that salary as of yet. So they decided to make the trade for Avery Bradley, bring him in, and not even sign KCP. And KCP was just signed by the Lakers for 1 year and a lot less money, okay? And so basically, I don't think the Pistons would have given him that money anyway. Let's talk about a couple of free agents that the Pistons just signed. They had them in their summer league down in Florida for rookies. Langston Galloway, you probably haven't really heard of him, or Eric Moreland. Langston Galloway is a combo guard. Eric Moreland is a center. These guys play with a lot of energy. They play with attitude because they were passed up in the draft in the last couple of years. They signed them to low-level contracts, but I think they're going to bring a lot of energy and a lot of the old bad boy attitude to the Pistons. Let's talk about their draft. They just had a draft, the NBA draft. A lot of the critics didn't give the Pistons a good grade for their draft, but I gave them an A+. And the reason why is they drafted Luke Kennard from Duke University. This guy is the best pure shooter in the entire draft this year, as far as I'm concerned. This kid's good. He played 2 years at Duke. He didn't just go in for 1 year like a lot of the guys that just came out and then went into the NBA draft. He actually played there for 2 years, learned a lot in his sophomore year. I think you're going to see a heck of a guy. He played in the league down in Florida recently, the summer league. He looked real good. He's a good three-point shooter, which we needed. So A+ for that draft for the NBA. Good luck. One final note. The Pistons, are they going to make the playoffs this year? Because they didn't last year. They're going to make the playoffs. Mark my word. All right, let's move on to the Red Wings. Okay, now, Red Wings general manager. I got a word for you. Bring back Thomas Vanek. You signed him last year. He played great as a free agent, but we let him go. We traded him near the trade deadline because we had to dump some salary, and the Red Wings weren't even going to make the playoffs, so they let him go, I think, to Florida. Bring the guy back. He's good. He's steady in the locker room. He plays well with Zetterberg and all these guys. Bring him back. Now, the Red Wings just went through their draft, okay? Now, again, a lot of the critics didn't give the Red Wings a good draft grade at all. I mean, some of them even gave them an F, which I was shocked. First of all, the Red Wings, they drafted the number 1 pick was their Michael Rasmussen. 6 feet 6 inches. This guy's bigger than Bob Probert. You all remember Bob Probert. Well, this kid can skate. He can put the puck in the net. He can get physical. You team him up with Anthony Mantza, who's also about 6'5" or 6'6". You got some tall lumber out there. I'll tell you that right now. So I'm liking what they did in the draft. Plus, they drafted a lot of good defensive guys, a lot of good defensemen that are up-and-comers, that are gamers, that like to, push their weight around and so on and so forth. Okay, so Red Wings, will they make the playoffs? They just missed it this year after 25 straight years in the playoffs. I predict they will be back in the playoffs. They got a good young core, and I think they're going to do it. All right, let's move on to the Lions. Okay, training camp starts for the NFL season in the next week or two. I'm excited. Then all the pre-games start in August, and then the Lions' first game is like the first Sunday, I think, in September. What I like about the Lions this year, they had a good draft, like I said before in last month's show. I like what they're doing. They brought in some good guys on the offensive line. They did have an injury on the left side of the offensive line with Taylor Decker, who could be out maybe 6 months or 6 games or whatever. But I think they're going to fill the hole nicely. I think they're going to protect Stafford better, and I think they got a lot going for them. And will they make the playoffs? They did last year, as you remember, but they got bounced in the first round by Seattle. Well, I say they're going to make the playoffs this year, and I say they're going to make it past the first round, mark my word. Now, real quick, Dave Burkett from the Detroit Free Press predicted, he did all his picks for this coming season for the Lions, how many they're going to win, how many they're going to lose. I went through his article and I looked at him. He's got them coming out at the end of the year at 9-7. Okay, well, I went through and did the same thing. I came out, folks, you're not going to believe this, but I came out at 14-2. I think they could win 14 games and lose just 2, but that might be my dream coming out. Maybe I'm going to go back a little bit and be a little more realistic. I'd say either 10-6 or 11-5. Certainly not. If they go 14-2, my God, I'll have a heart attack, believe me. But I think, conservatively, 10-6, 11-5. Let's see them do it. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I'm excited. Okay, go Lions. Let's get to, it's still baseball season, and it's really dragging now because the Detroit Tigers, last time we spoke, they were at 500. Now they're like 9 games below 500. They just imploded. They weren't hitting. The relief pitching, again, I don't know how many times I got to talk about relief pitching for the Tigers. It just literally sucks. They have no relief pitching. I mean, these guys are horrible. But last month, I talked about Francisco Rodriguez, if you watched my episode last month, and I told you about how many games he blew and so on and so forth. And I said, get rid of this guy. He's getting $7 million a year. What the hell is going on? We could have had at least 4 or 5 more wins if he hadn't blown with home runs in the 9th inning. Well, guess what the Tigers did between my last episode and this episode? They got rid of him. Out of the organization totally. Boom. Gone. Goodbye. So long. Good riddance, Francisco Rodriguez. Now, there was another pitcher I talked about also who's getting $16 million a year. Anibal Sanchez, starting pitcher, sucked all year so far. They sent him to Toledo. All of a sudden, he's in a rebirth. The last 3 starts he's had have been fantastic. So I don't know what happened, what kind of mojo he got going, what kind of a arm change he was doing with his pitching, but he's actually coming back. And I know I criticized him for $16 million a year and doing jack shit, but guess what? He is coming around, so I applaud him, and I'm glad I hope the rest of the second half of the season he does well. Now, what are the Tigers going to do in the second half of the season? Okay, they're all talking about they're going to come together, they're going to do real well. Well, let's see what happens, because personally, my opinion, Tigers are not going to make the playoffs. If they get even close, it'd be a miracle. I mean, they got so many guys that are underperforming right now, and it's really bad, and for the fans, it sucks. Let's face it. How many losing seasons are we going to go through? Okay, so the Tigers are talking about shipping out, maybe trading Verlander, trading Kinsler, J.D. Martinez. Al Avila, you haven't done a great job in picking up free agents. Some of these guys you picked up, especially the pitchers and relief pitchers, have really sucked. So, do what you got to do. Okay, we're tired of listening to the rumors in the paper and so on and so forth. Then they talked about yesterday possibly trading Michael Fulmer, our rookie of the year last year, and he just went to the All-Star game, to the Cubs. Come on, are you kidding me? Give me a break. Give the fans a break. Okay, Tigers not going to make the playoffs. I really don't think so. Listen, I want to give a shout out to my cousin Eddie, who's in Nashville, Tennessee. He moved from Detroit down to Nashville quite a few years ago. He kind of adopted the Nashville Predators National Hockey League team. Okay, so he kind of gave up on our Red Wings, but he's a Nashville Predator fan now, and I want to congratulate him and the Predators for making it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals this year. And, you know, I was pulling for them. I wanted them to beat Pittsburgh. I can't stand the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I was hoping Nashville would win. They didn't. They came up a little short, but they had a hell of a season. And my cousin Eddie, I'm sure you enjoyed that as well. So, you know, maybe they'll be back next year battling the Red Wings to go to the Stanley Cup. We'll see what happens. Hey, that's all I got for today. Now get the hell out of here.